All right, guys. Today we are joined by an Olympic legend, Natalie Coughlin. One of the best have ever competed on Team USA. And even Natalie, now you kind of slow down on competitive swimming, but you're still winning in a lot of different areas of your life. And today is my honor to finally meet you.
Thank you.
And I'm very grateful to have a chance to chat with you and listening to your inspirational story. Now, Natalie, you are one of the United States' most decorated female athletes. You have won a total of 60 medals in your career. And the last time I checked, 25 gold medals, 22 silver medals, and 13 bronze. That's quite an accomplishment, right? So would you mind to take me back to when you were a childhood? How did this all started? And ultimately, you became who you are today.
Yeah, so I started swimming on a swim team when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And it was because I was moving from Vallejo to Benicia here in California. And my parents just wanted me to meet new friends in my new town. So I was someone who always loved the water. We had a pool in my backyard in Vallejo. And my parents just put me on the swim team, and I had been doing it ever since. And I was really competitive from the second I was born. I think that was just within me. I was always really competitive. I wanted to be the best swimmer. I wanted to be the best gymnast. I wanted to be the best in school. And so I was constantly trying to figure out ways of getting better. Like I wasn't good right away in the pool, but I worked really hard. And by the time I was about 13 or so, I was actually quite talented by then because of all the hard work I put in. I went to junior nationals, and I finaled at nationals, and by the age of 16, I broke my first American record. And then when I was 21, turning 22 was my first Olympic Games. So it seemed like a really long journey, but that's a lot of accomplishment packed into 20 something years.
So when I hear someone like you who's highly motivated and driven to do so much at a very young age, I'm always wanting to find out, was it something in your DNA? You believe you were born with certain talents? Or was it certain environment that made you who you are? Because most young people, when they were like 8, 9, 10 years old, that's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
So what is your perspective on that?
I think it's a combination of nature and nurture. So I think the nature part, I was just naturally competitive. That was just my natural personality. But I had to work really hard at it. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the biggest. I wasn't the most talented in the water. But I knew that if I listened to my coaches, if I worked really hard, if I did all the extra things like stretch before bed and make sure I drink a lot of water and get a lot of sleep, all those little things. I was very, very focused at a young age, and I knew I always knew I wanted to be better, and I always saw a pathway on how to do that. And I was just very focused on that path, and it served me well. It really served me well.
So this morning I dropped off my daughter Bella in high school, right? And I told her that I'll be interviewing you, and I explained to Bella who you are. And I said, Bella, if this one question, because my daughter is into soccer now. And I said, Bella, if this one question you want to ask Natalie, what would it be? And here's Bella's question. She said, would you mind to ask Natalie for me, what kept you going, one achievement to another achievement, because being consistent is very difficult, right? So what kept you going and just kind of pushing your limit when you achieve one victory and then another victory, or maybe failures, and what motivated you, inspired you to be disciplined and being consistent? and doing what you do?
The biggest thing was in high school, I saw that swimming was a way for me to get to school.
Yeah.
I knew that was a way to earn a college scholarship. I knew I was good enough to get a scholarship. So that was the carrot that was dangled in front of me was, hey, this could take you to one of the best schools. I ended up going to Cal. I also was recruited by Stanford and UCLA, and I had my choice of these 3 amazing schools because of my swimming. And I recognized that early on in my teenage years, like, hey, I am sacrificing a ton of things. I'm getting up early every day. I am exhausted. I'm giving up things on the weekends with my friends because I'm working hard, and I know that I have these opportunities down the road. So it was really just about the long game for me and seeing as a platform to get to the next level.
So Natalie, we are at the Legends Aquatic Center here at UC Berkeley. And this is your home. So when you swam for the Bears, you won 11 individual NCAA championships, right? What was that moment like when you were inducted into the Cal Athletic Hall of Fame in 2014?
It was a wonderful feeling to be inducted to the Cal Hall of Fame. It was such a celebration. I was still competing. Like, I was still here at Cal competing, trying to make my 4th Olympic team. But it was really nice to see the highlights from my college years because I felt so removed from them. I graduated from college in 2004, and so seeing my accomplishments between 2000 and 2004, it seemed like eons ago. So it was a wonderful celebration, and I got to do that with some of my teammates. Anthony Irvin was one of my training partners here, and he was inducted the same year. So it was just a really nice celebration of my time.
All right, let's talk about some big game. That's Olympics, right? In 2008, you became the first U.S. female athlete in modern Olympic history to win 6 medals in one Olympiad. Now, in total, you competed in 12 events in 3 Olympics and won 12 medals, okay? 3 of them were gold. When you are on the biggest world stage for sports, what kind of physical and mental condition do you have to have, not just to just survive or do well, but actually elevate and win at the end of the day?
I think being successful at the Olympic Games, it's different for everybody. For myself, I obviously had to be in peak physical condition. Like that's a given. Everyone at the Olympic Games is in peak physical condition. But mentally, that's the most challenging part. It is such a mental game and such a mental drain of being in front of thousands of people live, knowing that it's being broadcast to millions of people around the world, knowing that all your life's dreams come down to the next minute. Like that's a mental challenge. And so it's something that I rose to the occasion 12 times. And I am so proud of myself for doing, but I'm kind of glad it's behind me because it was so hard. It was really, really tough to just know that, you know, the decades of training come down to this one moment, these 60 seconds. The next 60 seconds are what are represented from the previous 15, 20 years of training. Like it's mind blowing.
I don't know the statistics, but I just can imagine. I think winning an Olympic gold medal is probably so much harder than winning a lottery. I don't know the real statistic.
I'm sure it is.
It's insane, right? So let's talk about the moments you want to quit. I mean, at the end, when people look at the final product of a successful entrepreneur, business owner, parent, athlete like you, they tend to think that they are born to be successful, right? But they don't understand the behind the door scenes, many moments. They also want to maybe give up. Maybe they say, man, is this right for me? Would you mind to bring back a few of those moments that where you have doubts? Is this really worth it? Is this something that I can continue to push myself to the limit and continue to do it? And how did you overcome that thoughts of like having doubts and maybe even possibly giving up? Yeah,
I mean, every athlete at some point contemplates quitting. I saw a quote recently from Steph Curry, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but
Okay.
it was basically, if you haven't experienced failure, you haven't set your goals high enough. And it's challenging, it's draining to set a goal and fall short of it, but it means that you're setting high enough goals. And that's a really, really good life lesson in anything, in sports, in academics, professionally. Like, set goals, and if you fall short, that's okay. It's what you learn from them. And when I talk to younger kids, especially when I talk to swimmers, my little girl's swim team, what I tell them, after every single practice, think of 3 things that you did well today. And now think of 3 things that you could have done better. And be honest with yourself after every practice. And if you add that up and then do the same thing after every competition, pick 3 things you did well, 3 things you did poorly, or that could be improved. If you are honest with yourself and kind to yourself and treat each opportunity as a learning opportunity, you will get better. And it's a much healthier way of looking at the entire season, as just constantly evaluating yourself and asking, hey, how can I get better?
Now, you had a lot of winning moments in your career. Would you mind to share with us, what would you say is your most memorable one?
My most memorable moment was definitely defending my gold medal in the 100 back in the Beijing Olympics.
And just does manage to touch first, but not by very much. The blink of an eye right there. She's just ahead of Kirsty Coventry and Coventry's college teammate Margaret Holzer. Looks to the screen, looks to the scoreboard, looks to the times, looks to see her family, and she can tell she's won the gold medal again. Natalie Coughlin takes the gold, Kirsty Coventry the silver.
That's a phenomenal Olympic location.
Yeah,
it was insane, though.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane.
I saw the opening. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, my whole family was at the opening. I was sleeping because I had to swim the next day.
Right.
But I knew that I was the defending gold medalist. I had the world record going into that competition, so everyone was gunning for me. So again, mentally, it was really, really hard, but I knew I was capable of winning that. And I was able to stay in the moment, stay focused and stick to my race plan. And ultimately I won. And I've never cried after a race in my entire life. And I started bawling hysterically after that race, just because I was just so overwhelmed with tremendous emotion.
Right. So Natalie, in a horse race, the number 1 horse and the second horse is just a nose of difference.
Right.
Okay? When it comes down to competitive sports, racing, whether it's swimming or anything else, it's really the nose of difference. What would you say is the difference between someone who's number 1 and number 2 and number 3? Because they're all great.
Right.
What would you say is 1 or 2 elements that separate the number 1 than the rest?
It's really remarkable in swimming that you could be divided by hundredths of a second. That's millimeters, right? And you look at many races over time, the same people tend to be at the top. And so what are those same people doing? And in my perspective, I think a lot of it comes down to discipline. If you look at someone like Michael Phelps, like one of his most iconic races ever was the 100 butterfly in Beijing, and he was swimming against Milorad Kavic, who was from Serbia, who honestly, Kavic won that race, but he failed to finish. Michael finished, and he got the gold because he was disciplined. Mike Kavic he celebrated before he finished. he got lazy at the end.
Right,
and so
right.
it's just little moments like that, as people who are disciplined day in, day out, do the right thing, make the right choices, and in the heat of battle, the heat of a race, knows exactly what to do to win. So yes, it's coming down to a millimeter, 2 millimeters, but it's because of the discipline of all the years of going into that someone like that is able to rise to the occasion. Great
pointer. Now, since you slowed down in competitive swimming, you're into a lot of passions, right? You got your own business. Mm-hmm. As an entrepreneur, you got your wine business, and you went on Dancing with the Stars, right? And you are into cooking. And of course, you are a mother of 2 young kids, a girl and a boy.
Yeah.
So how do you manage to do all that? And then also, please share with us your current passion. Like, what are you into these days, and how are you able to do so many things? It seems like you do it so perfectly.
Oh, thank you. I don't do everything perfectly, that's for sure. But I focus on my wine business, Gadarian Wines. I started that with a business partner in 2017. And that is something that I never thought I would do.
Really?
But we decided to start this business. My partner was in the wine industry. She just needed a business partner. And I was all for it. And I'm someone who will learn as I go, and I will do it enthusiastically. and that's how I've approached that. With my kids, it's hectic. It's been,
right.
you know, they're so young. They're 2 and 4, almost 3 and 5. But, you know, the last several years with COVID and everything, it was crazy because I was with them all the time and trying to balance my business and everything else. And then I have, you know, my own passions. Like I recently, this last year, I realized how much I love being an athlete, and I kind of let that go through my pregnancies and through COVID and through my businesses. I worked out, but not nearly to the level that I had grown accustomed to over these, you know, decades. And so over the last year, I've gotten back in the water a little bit, but mostly back in the gym, and I realize it makes me feel like me, and it makes me really happy. And it also makes me a better mom.
Sure.
And it makes me a better business person because it gets all this stress out of me. It just makes me feel like me. And that's kind of the glue that's been holding me together the most, you know, the recent year or so.
Right. So you're an entrepreneur now, and you were a athlete. In your honest opinion, which one is harder? Running a business harder, or like competing in sport is harder?
Being an entrepreneur and being an athlete are hard in different ways. You know, the mental game of being a competitive athlete, there's nothing like that.
Right.
That's the hardest thing I've ever done and probably ever will do. But being an entrepreneur is challenging because there's so many things that are completely out of your control.
Right.
For instance, you know, I'm in the wine industry, so I have no control over the drought. I have no control over the fires. I have no control over if the businesses that are buying our wine are shutting down because of COVID. Like I have no control over all these things. But in sports, there are so many things that you don't control too.
Sure.
So in business, I'm able to recognize the things that I could control and just let it go. And I think that's because I've learned that through sport.
Okay, let's go a little bit deeper on the entrepreneurship topic. Not everybody can be a competitive swimmer like you because it's a nominee. You know, let's just be honest. You know, not everybody can do what you do when it comes to that. But I think the chance to becoming a successful entrepreneur is a lot higher for the general public. And there are a lot of people are watching our channel and they wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? What would you say is the top 1 or 2 advices to anyone who wants to start up and become an entrepreneur, but they're not sure yet? What would be your top 2 advice for those people?
My top 2 pieces of advice are just get started. Like don't wait till everything's perfect to start your business because it's never going to be perfect.
Sure.
One of the things that I think that I've done well is I just trust in my own ability. I trust in my ability to figure things out and to go with the flow. And so my second piece of advice is just be willing to pivot. Things will go awry and you will have no control over that. Like it's just going to happen. And so to be able to roll with the punches and pivot and make decisions on the fly is really, really important. Don't get so locked into one idea that you can't see all these other ideas out there. And so that would be my main 2 pieces of advice.
Great. Now, you are also into serving the community and helping others Let's talk about your charity, and I believe your charity has an amazing vision and cause.
Yeah.
Would you mind to share that with us?
So the charity that I have been working with for many, many years is Damn Cancer. It's named after a friend of mine, David Andrew Madden, so DAM, who he passed away from osteosarcoma at the age of 28. So at the age of 25, he was diagnosed, and due to complications of his cancer treatment, he had a stroke and passed away. So when he was diagnosed with cancer, he just came off of his parents' health insurance, and he was just starting a new job but didn't have the insurance yet. So that charity is focused on young adults with cancer, who especially are kind of in between those insurances. And so young adults you don't think that young adults get cancer, but sadly they do, and they're the ones who really, really need help. That's the charity we've been working with, and they give financial grants to individuals who are seeking treatment for cancer.
Now, before I ask you the last question, Natalie, I, as the founder of Just Wish Foundation, I believe in your cause. I believe in your heart. And today, my foundation, we're gonna do our part to donate our piece of heart to help you to continue with your legacy and so many amazing work you're doing to the world, and you're definitely an inspiration to many teenagers and other entrepreneurs, and your stories can really hit a different audience, not just the young people, right? So my last question for you, Natalie, is you have achieved so much in life. How do you feel when you look back at what you have accomplished and what the future holds in the next 5 to 10 years for you?
Gosh, it's hard to look back on all the things I've accomplished, because it's been over so many years, and then when you see it written down, it's like, oh my gosh, how did I do this? Like, I don't see how I did all of it, but at the time it was just taking one thing at a time. And so as the future in front of me, I just try to, have big goals, grow my business and be a better mom, and all that. And I see it as little goals, incremental goals along the way that'll ultimately get me down to where I want to be.
Natalie, thank you for your time. It's an amazing time to spend with you and just simply chatting with you. You are an inspiration again to the world, to a lot of young people, and I appreciate your time so much. Thank you so much. And wish you to have continued success as an entrepreneur, as a mother, and everything that you do.
Thank you. I really
All right,
appreciate
thank
it.
you so much. All right, that was a smooth one, right? Thank you.